Okay, greetings everybody. Keith here, hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I got a couple things I'm going to go over today, specifically for people like a guy named Flow State and his issue with making homemade postage impressions, homemade prepaid postage impressions known as franking or your national postage stamps. There are different forms that you can use when you use the postal services, no matter what country you're in. And we're going to go over that. And what you got before you here today is the protocols of the Universal Postal Union Convention Manual. And it's 499 pages long. When you go up to the right-hand corner of your page, you're going to see three dots. And when you click on that, it's going to open a window. You can look and see Find and Edit, and then go over to Find. And it's going to open a window up at the top. And you can put in what you're looking for on the document. It's going to tell you how many times it's going to find it on the document. And like I said, this one here is it's going to show you 57 times where it talks about franking. And when we click on the first one, it takes us to characteristics of postage stamps and postal prepayment or franking impressions. And then it says suspected fraudulent use of postage stamps or postal prepayment or franking impressions. So you got postage stamps, you've got postal prepayment, and you've got franking impressions. Okay. The next one, it says franking note. Now this is form CN11, and it's a franking note. It's a promise if it's a note. So the things that I pose as the homemade part, that is a prepaid payment or prepaid postal stamp, because it's stamped right on the envelope or the dispatch. And it is not a note, because the note is already on the record. It's the United States and the Postal Service, the United States Postal Service and the Treasury, that make the promise to provide the services. And that is the promise already there. They already have notes known as the U.S. Code and various other statutes, codes, rules, and regulations. Those are all notes. They're all promises. Postal prepayment impressions, franking machine impressions, and impressions made by a printing press or other printing or stamping process in accordance with the acts of the Union may be used only with the authorization of the member country or territory. Impressions of officially approved franking machines valid in the country of origin, operating under the direct supervision of the designated operator of origin. Article 6-003, characteristics of postage stamps and postal prepayment or franking impressions. In other words, there is no regulation. There is no requirement. They are merely characteristics. people can create their own and have certain characteristics that are recognizable. Just like you can create your own flag and give it certain characteristics that others will recognize it as a flag, you too can create stamps with the characteristics that look like other stamps. Postage stamps and postal prepayment impressions. Postage stamps and prepayment impressions may be of any shape, provided that, in principle, their vertical or horizontal dimensions are not less than 15 millimeters, nor more than 50 millimeters. They may be distinctly marked with punched perforations or embossed impressions produced by means of an embossing stamp, subject to the conditions, again, not requirements, but conditions, laid down by the designated operator or the member country which has issued them. Conditions being contract terms and conditions. They are negotiations, provided that those processes do not interfere with the clarity of the particulars prescribed in Article 6 of the Convention. Article 6 is what we're dealing with. Commemorative or charity postage stamps may bear an indication of the year of issue in Arabic numerals. Similarly, they may bear an inscription in any language to indicate the occasion for which they are used. When a supplementary charge is payable, in addition to their postage value, when a supplementary charge is payable, in addition to their postage value, they shall be so designed as to leave no doubt about the value. In accordance with Article 6 of the Convention, postage stamps may, in place of the name of the issuing member country or territory, and subject to a formal request. Again, there is no requirement. Sent by the issuing member country or territory to the International Bureau. Include the abbreviation or initials officially listed in the ISO 3166 standard for the member country or territory concerned. So, as you've seen on the prepaid payment or postal impression or stamp, whatever you want to call it, that it's been used, we use them and we put prepaid on there and we put a specified number. That specified number goes to the ISO standard 3166 according to the U.S. code and its value system. That number is very important. Franking machine impressions. Designated operators may use themselves or authorize the use of postal franking machines reproducing on items the name of the member country of origin and the postage value. This is when you get them from your government offices and you see the pink franking impression on there that says so much for however much they spent to send it. You also have black ones that you get from the state, but I don't believe they put the value on there. So the internal state is just a blank or a slated amount, and so they just don't put the value on it. Your other ones in pink, the values may vary, so they use the pink and they put the amount. as well as the name of the place of origin and date of posting. Date of posting. This is where the postmaster or the machine or whoever's doing it stamps it as canceled, showing that it has posted. However, the last two items of information shall not be compulsory. For franking machines used by designated operators themselves, the postage value may be replaced by an indication that the postage has been prepaid. For franking machines used by designated operators themselves, the postage value may be replaced by an indication that postage has been prepaid. So the postage value is 1.00 with no dollar sign, just indicating dollar for dollar or 1 unit for 1 unit. It doesn't matter. And then it says prepaid with the account number, showing where the credit comes from. Impressions produced by postal franking machines shall, in principle, be bright red. Again, not required. It's a principle. However, designated operators may permit the impressions produced by franking machines may be made in a color other than bright red. So when you see on the ones we use, we have a coat of arms on there of different colors and not specifically red. The impressions of any publicity slogans used with the franking machine may also be produced in a color other than red. The impressions of any publicity slogans. A coat of arms is a publicity slogan. The names of the member country and place of origin shall be given in Roman letters, which may be supplemented by the same information in other letters. The postage value shall be shown in Arabic figures. Franking impressions obtained from a printing press or by other printing or stamping process, meaning you can print them out by hand as long as it's a printing process, shall bear the name of the member country of origin and, if appropriate, of the office of posting in Roman letters, which may be supplemented by the same information in other letters. They shall also bear an indication that the postage has been prepaid. For example, in the form tax per Q, charge collected. In every case, the phrase adopted shall be shown in bold letters in a space, the area of which shall not be less than 300 millimeters squared. The date stamp, if used, shall not appear in this space. The date stamp, if used, shall not appear in this space. Franking impressions obtained from an electronic printing process may be applied above the address field, separated from it by a vertical distance of between 2.5 and 5 millimeters, regardless of the location of the address. Such franking impressions may be applied directly on the envelope or inside the envelope window. In the latter case, the printing and positioning of the item inside the envelope shall be constrained such that no part of the franking impression is closer than 5 millimeters to the edge of the window. This is as it relates to a tap test, so that if you tap that envelope in all 4 directions, you can clearly see that franking impression in all of its glory in every position without missing anything. It will not go off the side and where you cannot see it inside of the envelope. This is what they're talking about, the envelope, and it has to be within so many millimeters within that area. It cannot extend closer. It's called a tap test. You have to be able to read it in all of its glory. And folks, the link to this and the fraud statute that we're going to look at here in a minute is in the chat section down below in the details. Suspected fraudulent use of postage stamps or postal prepayment or franking impressions. Subject to national criminal or criminal action provisions, the following procedure shall be observed in case of suspicion of an intentional violation concerning means of postal prepayment. So if they have a postal payment system and they're telling you there's postal prepayment, how do you access the postal prepayment? Well, the postal prepayment is the extension of a pre-existing account wherein it is operating on credit. Like I said, that Social Security card is a card that is used to obtain money, property, labor, or services on credit. You can do the same thing with postage stamps. You can obtain them on credit. Or you can make your own prepaid postal stamps indicating the prepayment and where it comes from. And that is something that is used to obtain postal services on credit. Anyway, we're going to get on to the next one because, as I said, you can run through that. That document is down in the details section below. Just click on the link and read it. Like I've said many times, I can explain it to you, but I cannot comprehend it for you. So it doesn't matter how much I read it or how I read it. I can only present the sources, and the rest is up to you. So the next one is fraud, as it relates to some guy named Mitchell who wants to go around crying and screaming at everybody as though they're frauds and calling everybody frauds when not a one of them has a contract with him. And he wants to cry that that's not what fraud is. Oh no, I'm butthurt, and that's fraud. So, as the definition of fraud goes, fraud is both a civil tort and criminal wrong. In civil litigation, allegations of fraud might be based on a misrepresentation of fact that was either intentional or negligent. For a statement to be an intentional misrepresentation, the person who made it must either have known the statement was false or been reckless as to its truth. The speaker must have also intended that the person to whom the statement was made would rely on it. The hearer must then have reasonably relied on the promise and also been harmed because of that reliance. No, wait a minute. The hearer must then have reasonably relied on the promise. For a statement to be a intentional see, they changed it from a statement to a promise. Why would they do that? You know, like a note is a promise. See, every last one of these codes and definitions relates to commerce. Therefore, if you're going to accuse somebody of committing fraud, then there has to be a commercial element to it, Mitch, bitch. Okay? Otherwise, it's simply known as lying. Now, when it comes to the promise, this is a matter of promising to do something. This is a promise to do something, to either give or take. Whereas the false statement by itself is much like a unlawful taking, theft by way of taking, theft by way of unlawful taking. There is no commercial element in those. Those are criminal. When they talk about civil tort, then we're talking about criminal actions in contracts. You have to be involved in a contract first before somebody can make a small claims court against the breach of contract and then take you to the Supreme Court for actual criminal charges. So let's look on. A claim for fraud based on a negligent misrepresentation differs in that the speaker of the false statement may have actually believed it to be true. However, the speaker lacked reasonable grounds for that belief. See? And like I've said many times, and you can look it up yourself, it's an English language. And the term comment, as if any of my comments were misrepresentations, it clearly says that my comments, whether they're written or spoken, are inventions, fabrications, and fiction. So whether you'd like to believe it or not, the hearer must then have reasonably relied on the promise and also been harmed because of it. If, Mitch, you keep going around listening to people's comments as if though they're true and factual and crying that they committed fraud on you, I guarantee you I will make you look like an idiot in court myself, let alone an attorney that knows this. You dumb babbling bitch. So let's continue on. A promise that goes unfulfilled may give rise to a claim for fraud only under particular circumstances. Now let's look at this term promise now that they decided to underline and highlight it. That means there's a definition they want you to look at, Mitch. So let's take a look at this definition of promise, guys. Because like I said before, in regards to commerce, a promise is a note, and a note is a promise. A draft is an order, and an order is a draft. So what is a promise in this case? Guess what? A promise is a claim of intent to do something or refrain from doing something. Whether a promise will be enforced in court depends on the law of contracts and related obligations. So in your promise or in your thing of fraud, you're trying to say that somebody promised you something. You little fucking bitch. Ain't nobody out here promised you anything. You lying fuck. You insane bastard. You better learn. You go around calling everybody and their brother a fraud, and you don't even know what the term fraud means. You have to have a contract with promises of obligations towards each other, you fucking cuck motherfucker. Anyway, folks, just so you know, again, I can explain it to you, but I can't comprehend it for you. I assure you, you are creators, and you can do everything they can do without third-party intervening. You have the ultimate unlimited powers of contract. This is where they get them from. But just because you want something from their services doesn't mean you have to contract with them. There are certain things provided for in trust already. And if they're the ones contracting in that trust, there's a grantee and a trustee, and that leaves a benefactor. That is the position you fill. That way you stay out of that contract and are still able to enforce the trust, because the beneficiary is known to be the true owner, and the beneficiary can settle the trust. See, the other two parties can't settle the trust. All they can do is establish it. Once they establish it, they must operate in that trust as public servants of the public trust. Only the benefactor can settle things. Remember this stuff, folks. And again, remember, I love you, but I don't give a fuck whether you love me back or not. Do your due diligence. Don't believe me. Don't believe your neighbor. Don't believe the government. And for crying out loud, don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. In the meantime, may God bless you and have a good day. We'll see you again next time.